Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Yes, today is Thursday and we're here with the Drinker has to say about everything. But hey, let's get on with greeting before we get too ahead of ourselves. Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm your host here.
Guy in the chair.
He said it! He said it!
And today, for the Drinker, we have the crash and burn of the Taika Waititi story. I think that's how you say that. I might be butchering it, but let's sit back and enjoy. So enjoy.
The past few years have seen a lot of big names crash out of the industry in spectacular fashion, from gassed-up actresses who thought they were untouchable, to big-name stars so in love with their own brand that they forgot how to be actual human beings, to actual borderline psychopaths who tried to weaponize the justice system against their own husbands. But this next case is kind of an interesting one. A man of genuine talents who rose to the very peak of Hollywood success, propelled by a stellar reputation and a media machine determined to hype him up as the next big thing, only to realize that having too much power, too much freedom, and too many resources can be just as dangerous as having too little. A man ultimately undone by his lack of self-control, discipline, and
Sheer fucking hubris.
I'm talking, of course, about Taika Waititi, the man who vowed to ruin your mythos in a minute, baby, and whose ego got so big that it caused a full-scale career implosion. So let us learn about this strange little man together, shall we? Taika was born in New Zealand in 1975, the son of a Maori father and a mother of Russian, Jewish, and Irish descent. Damn, that's one hell of a combination right there. Anyway, the marriage was a turbulent one, and his parents eventually divorced when he was 5 years old, an event that would go on to shape a lot of his subsequent film projects. You know, call me crazy, but having divorced parents seems to be a bit of a common theme in these crash and burn stories. Oh well, I'm sure there's no connection between massive personal upheaval and the removal of important role models during your formative years and psychological problems later in life.
Right.
Anyway, Taika soon developed an interest in filmmaking and began entering into film festivals and competitions, where his short film Two Cars, One Night bagged him an Academy Award nomination in 2005. But his real passion lay with comedy, and by 2007 he released his first feature film, Eagle vs. Shark. It's definitely not his best work, but a lot of his hallmarks are there. Jabs at the absurdity and pettiness of daily life, the deadpan humour, and a protagonist struggling with identity and emotional trauma. And if you've ever wondered how it's possible to lose a fight to a guy in a wheelchair, well, this film's got you covered in a scene that genuinely had me laughing out loud. Anyway, his next movie, Boy, in 2010 turned out to be a much bigger success. It's a comedy drama about a kid who worships his absent father, who just so happens to be Maori, only to reconnect with him and find out the guy's actually a bit of a loser. This all seems very familiar. Anyway, the movie did well critically and commercially and finally put Taika on the map. It was followed up by 2014's What We Do in the Shadows, kind of like This Is Spinal Tap, but with vampires instead of musicians, and 2016's Hunt for the Wilder People. Both were excellent movies, especially Wilder People, that showcased Taika's talent for blending poignant character-driven drama with absurdist humour and inventive direction to create something truly unique. He was clearly a talented guy who offered something a bit different from the usual generic Hollywood slop. And on the subject of generic Hollywood slop, this is where Marvel Studios enters into our tale, dear viewer. See, by this point the MCU had become a pop culture juggernaut, rampaging through the summer box office every single year, but the one character they just couldn't crack was Thor. The two previous movies had been too serious and stodgy, and ultimately they failed to connect with audiences. What they really needed was someone who could bring a different edge to the character and make him fun for a change, and Taika turned out to be just the man for the job. Thor Ragnarok was a breath of fresh air after the gloomy pretentiousness of Dark Worlds. It was bright and colourful and vibrant, and it never took itself too seriously. Yeah, it did inflict Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie on the world. Fuck off, Tessa Thompson, and take that shit-eating smirk with you. But I guess I can forgive it for that. Grudgingly. Anyway, it would go on to be a massive critical and commercial success, reinvigorating the character of Thor and, more importantly, propelling Taika's name to the top of Hollywood's. He'd go on to cement his success by writing, directing, and producing Jojo Rabbit in 2019, a comedy drama about a young boy living in Germany during World War II with his imaginary friend Adolf, and arguably it's Taika's best work ever. It even bagged him an Academy Award for Best Screenplay. By now, Taika was at the peak of his success, with a string of critical and commercial hits to his name, awards and recognition everywhere, and he was being lauded as the next big director in Hollywood. He just couldn't seem to go wrong, and well, all the success was starting to go to his head. An infamous tweet from August 2019 where he flippantly dismissed fan criticisms that he didn't take Thor and the mythos around the character seriously attracted a lot of negative attention and began to paint him as a bit of an egomaniac, in love with his own reputation and convinced that he just couldn't fail. Which is ironic in retrospect because, well, he was about to. Big time. Marvel were keen to repeat the success of Thor Ragnarok, and so when it was time to do a fourth movie, the logical choice was to bring Taika back and let him work his magic again. This time though, he wouldn't just be directing it, he'd be writing the screenplay as well. All the checks and balances that had kept him somewhat under control with Ragnarok were gone now. This time Taika had total creative control over Love and Thunder, and guess what happens? It was a fucking disaster. Thor Love and Thunder is exactly what happens when unbridled creativity gets unleashed with hundreds of millions of dollars to spend and not an ounce of discipline, restraint or self-control to rein it in. By all accounts, Taika himself was like a kid in a candy store during the shoot, coming up with ideas and whole new scenes on the fly, unable to focus on anything. Entire sets were built and struck without ever being used. Whole scenes were filmed that never made it into the final cut. Actors were encouraged to improvise and ad-lib, resulting in scenes that dragged on forever and had to be butchered in editing. The end result was an unfocused, meandering, oversaturated mess of a film that somehow brought out all of Taika's worst tendencies as a filmmaker. Every dramatic scene was undercut with goofy jokes that were more annoying than funny. The emotional tone swung wildly in every direction. Not a single moment was ever allowed to breathe and settle in, and it wasn't lost on people that Taika wrote a pretty substantial role for himself in this one, playing Korg, who now seemed to be in every fucking scene, always cracking shit jokes and always trying to steal the limelight. Even the actors were getting pissed off with him. Chris Hemsworth famously described the movie as feeling like it was made by a 7-year-old and vowed to never work with any mad genius directors again. I wonder who he could be referencing there. Love and Thunder got absolutely savaged by fans and critics and disappointed at the box office, costing way more than Ragnarok but making $100 million less. Yeah, it still turned a profit, but Marvel weren't exactly breaking out the champagne this time around. The damage to their brand was substantial, coming at a time when the MCU was already starting to falter. Love and Thunder seemed like it should have been a slam dunk that could give them a much needed boost, but instead it had become one of their biggest embarrassments. It didn't help that even Taika himself decided to shit on the film, mocking the special effects alongside nobody's favourite actress.
Does that look real?
In that particular shot, no, actually.
Yeah, that's right, Taika, because the visuals are definitely the thing holding this one back. Why are him and Tessa Thompson spending so much time together here? Alright, that's why. Instead of making him look like a good sport who could laugh at his own mistakes, he came across as an arrogant dickhead, disinterested in the quality of his own movies and willing to throw other people under the bus instead of taking responsibility. I mean, if anyone deserves sympathy in all of this, it's the animators who usually have to meet impossible deadlines and constantly change what they produce to keep up with fickle studios and directors. Overnight, Taika's reputation was absolutely shredded, going from a talented and likable director who could marry comedy and drama and make it look easy to a goofy clown who lacked the discipline and maturity to be trusted with big projects. Stung by the first real failure of his career, Taika retreated to his comfort zone of low-budget comedies and tried to bounce back the following year with Next Goal Wins. It didn't work. The movie got weak reviews and flopped at the box office. Taika Waititi was officially in director's jail. So what the hell is he up to now? Well, it was reported a few months ago in the Hollywood press that he was working on a Judge Dredd movie, which was kind of misleading because nothing's actually in active development with this one. All he really has are the film rights, which he's trying to shop around the industry to get a movie deal off the ground. And funnily enough, nobody seems to be interested in it, because I literally can't think of any director less suited to Judge Dredd than Taika fucking Waititi. Are we ever going to see him in charge of a big budget blockbuster again? I don't know. know. I mean, his TV show Time Bandits seemed to get okay reviews, so he's still working at least, but I can't see him reaching the A-list again anytime soon. He really is a perfect example of what happens when a man gets promoted beyond his abilities and all his weaknesses as a filmmaker get exposed for the world to see, when creativity isn't balanced out by self-control, and ultimately when a career gets completely undone by
Fucking hubris.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Hey guys, I hope y'all enjoyed and watched to the end. All I can say is he needs to stay away from Judge Dredd. No. I mean, they did it. I liked it with Carl Urban, his version, but I always loved Sylvester Stallone's version. Because I was introduced to him, but still. You know, shit happens. But if you like what you say, you want to see more, don't forget to like it, comment down below, share, and then subscribe. And I hope you had an awesome night and the rest of your day good really well. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.